I'm going to tell you the story of the first and only fist fight I've ever been in my life. My name is Katie, and I have an identical twin sister named Cassie. And Cassie was 1 minute older than me, and she never let me live that down for our entire childhood growing up. She would always tell me, "You are my elder, and you need to respect me." My mom always tells me this story from when we were about 3, maybe 4 years old. It was our first Halloween, and we were trick-or-treating. We were dressed up as bunny rabbits. Her nose was red, and mine was green. My mom recalls looking ahead and seeing Cassie just skipping ahead, just like as happy as can be, with like no candy bucket in her hand. And she's like, "Where's Katie?" And she turns around, and she sees me carrying 2 jack-o'-lantern candy buckets by myself behind everyone with my head down and my feet dragging along, just looking as sad as can be. Cassie had made me carry her candy. And that just kind of sets up the theme for the rest of our childhood. So all throughout high school, junior high and high school, Cassie just excelled at whatever it was she did. She was a straight A student. She was AP everything. She was a star athlete. She was a state level swimmer. She was 20 pounds lighter than me. I was a little chubby, it's okay. And like super popular, and all the boys, they wanted to date her. And so when we were 15, she also, another example of this, we were 15, and she'd gotten busted for smoking pot, because she could just do whatever she wanted. But my parents, to punish her, were like, "You can't get your license," like, no way. So Katie gets her license. Here we go. So you think that's a good thing, right? She's being disciplined. No, because I get my license first. Guess who becomes her chauffeur for the next 6 months? That's me. So I end up having to drive her around wherever it is she needs to go, including the parties I'm not invited to. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Another example is, you guys remember in high school yearbooks when everyone would win like best smile or like best hair? More than once, my twin sister won best eyes year after year. We're identical twins, and she would win best eyes. I was just like, I don't know anymore, you guys, but. So instead of letting this get me down and like ruin my years growing up, I like develop my own interests. I get really into snowboarding. I like hang out with all like the skater kids at school, and I develop a love for art. And like I'm pretty happy, or as happy as like a 17-year-old can be. So we graduate high school. I get into a design program up on Capitol Hill in Seattle, and Cassie gets into a 4-year college in Eastern Washington. We go our separate ways, and I'm feeling pretty good about being on my own and like going out, like I'm living my life, not under her shadow anymore. That is until Cassie Gaines, the freshman 15, is miserable and promptly drops out of college. And she moves into Seattle, into my apartment with me, starts going to my college. She starts hanging out with all my friends and even hooking up with like some of them. She starts dressing like me. She got the same piercings as me. At the time, I had a double nose piercing with a Marilyn Monroe piercing on my upper lip, but she got her piercings on the opposite side of me. So when I looked at her, we were a mirror image of one another. It was like horrible. So I was pissed. Like this was my life. I had developed for myself, and she was infiltrating it and like essentially winning. You know, like she was killing it. So it all came to a head one evening when I come home drunk from a party, and I come into my bedroom, and she'd been in there, and I had this printer that was broken, and she tried to use it, and she realized it was broken because there was like ink cartridges everywhere and paper and like pieces, and she didn't clean it up, and it was just a huge mess on my bed. So I storm into her bedroom while she's sleeping, and I'm like, oh, hell no. And I go to her desk, and it's covered in papers and books and just like probably dirty food dishes with food. And I just like swipe everything off and like throw it onto the ground, and I scream at her. I'm like, "I'm going to show your room the same respect you show mine." I'm like, "Yeah, I got her." And I go back into my room, and I lock the door behind me. I'm going to go to bed. And Cassie has a temper, and you never want to wake her up when she's sleeping. And so she wakes up in like this rage, and she just like lunges out of her bed and like rips the door handle off of her door even. And she blamed it on me, but it came off from the inside, so it was her. And she's trying to like break into like my room, but like I'm laughing on the other side because I know I locked it and she can't get in. And then all of a sudden I hear her just like ripping this paper, and I realized there was this painting I had done that I put on the outside of my door, and she's destroying my artwork. So I start crying, and and I open the door to try and save my artwork, and she jumps at me and pins me against the wall to kick my ass, essentially. And with that, I closed my eyes and I clenched my right fist. And I used to have this huge turquoise ring I wore on my ring finger that I'd had since I was a kid. And I just swing and I hit her and I split her. I hit her left temple and I split her eye open. And she runs out of the apartment sobbing. And she moved out the next night, the next day. And it was with that final punch that I'd finally leveled the playing field between her and I. And ultimately, I think what it was, it's not that she was always winning and I was always losing. It was more about the fact that she was the twin who was really too afraid to lose, and I was too afraid to fight. So, thank you.